Welcome into the Cowboys Report. Last month, the most likes we had in the month of July, which is normally a pretty quiet month, there's not much going on, was just 925. I want to smash that record today. There's going to be way more than 925 people who watch today's show, so like that video, and let's blow last year's month record out of the water. First up on today's show, we'll talk about Adams and Kearse and linebacker stuff in a little bit. I was a bit surprised to the Dallas Morning News list tight end Princeton Fant as their number 5 breakout candidate this season. First, here's the argument from Michael Gehlken of DMM. It says no position on the Cowboys roster is deeper with young talent than tight end. For that reason, Fant has flown under the public radar a bit. He shouldn't. Nicknamed Bull by position coach Lunda Wells for his physicality, he has an outside shot at making the roster out of training camp. Fant ran some with the first-team offense in the spring, rotating with Jake Ferguson while Luke Schoonmaker with a hamstring and Peyton Hendershot with ankle surgery rehabbed. That experience is invaluable. Ferguson, Schoonmaker, and John Stephens enter camp in pole position to make the roster, which realistically leaves only one spot between Hendershot, Brevyn Spann-Ford, and Fant. Don't sleep on Fant, who projects as a potential core special teamer for a team expected to dress 4 tight ends on game day. I was surprised to see him on there. A lot of good notes, frankly, from that kind of mixed in on what really was about Fant, about they're going to carry 4 tight ends probably. Schoonmaker is going to be on the team. John Stephens in position to be tight end 3. That does leave a spot open for tight end 4 for multiple players to fight and compete. Guys like Princeton Fant, guys like Brevyn Spann-Ford, like a Peyton Hendershot. Fant played 2 games last year. He was a call-up on the from the practice squad, the game day roster a handful of times. Most of the help out on special teams. Didn't get any offensive snaps. Did have 30 special team snaps. Remember what we've said before. That last couple spots on the roster, when you're figuring out, 40 to 53, give or take, probably more, maybe it's more like 43 to 53. Those final spots, the influence comes just as much from the head coach and the offensive coordinator as it does the special team coordinator. The Cowboys like Fant as a blocker, which is not really John Stephens' game if he ends up being tight end 3, or if it's like a Stephens/Hendershot and like a Fant/Brevyn Spann-Ford. Blocking and special teams matter a lot there. So prediction time. Will Princeton Fant make the Cowboys roster this season? Y for yes, N for no. It is the pinned comment on this video. So if that ad plays on the YouTube side, take advantage. Head down there and let me know. Look, I think Michael Gehlken is a great journalist. He gets a lot of good scoops. He came over from the Las Vegas and was immediately breaking stories on the Cowboys beat. That was super impressive. So when he writes stuff, I think in general we should pay attention. Not that everyone's always going to be right, but when he mentions, hey, don't sleep on Princeton Fant, okay, stands out to me. I agree with him. I think Ferguson's a lock, Schoonmaker's are a lock, and then there's the 1 or 2 spots open beyond that. Hendershot and Stephens, like I mentioned, are more athletic tight ends. They're more pass catchers. Spann-Ford and potentially Fant then, if they're calling him Bull because of his physicality, right? Fit more of the blocker, the special teams style. If you're going to carry 4, you're pretty much going to have to be active on game days as a core special teamer. And if Fant can do that, if he's got not just the backing of, Brian Schottenheimer, of Lunda Wells, the tight end coach, but also has the backing of John Fossil, that goes a long way. And I do think it is a more of a roster battle situation for Princeton Fant, as opposed to, I was a little surprised on the breakout list, but I get the argument there. He wasn't crazy productive in his time in college. He was UDFA grade, or was he on the first guy I didn't get to? I forget which one it was, but I watched enough Tennessee games to know, he wasn't going to be really on the main roster. We didn't have great production. He is the cousin of Noah Fant, which one of the redirect links in there for Dallas Morning News, that I don't think Gehlken did this part, but of here's the 5 breakouts. They did put Noah Fant instead of Princeton Fant, which I thought was humorous and accidental from that perspective. But there is room on the tight end roster battle outlook to make room for Fant. So I think maybe sleeper as opposed to breakout is what I would have gone with there. I had Fant on my practice squad. When we did our 53-man roster projection for the Cowboys last week, I had Brevyn Spann-Ford as my additional tight end, along with John Stephens, and had practice squad beyond that. Now, we you can go check out that roster projection video already. I'll make sure it's linked in the comments of today's show. But we will also be live Monday and Thursday, 4 p.m. Eastern. Obviously, today is Tuesday, assuming you're watching it on a Tuesday. Make sure you tune in Thursday for more on the Cowboys and daily Cowboys videos here as well. Now, Bleacher Report listed the top 3 roster holes for the Cowboys. And the first one they went with, I think they're going more by position, was running back. Here was the pitch. Like, you don't have a lot of players there. Who could you add? They write, the problem here is that there aren't any high-end starters left on the free agent market. Dallas could take a flyer on Dalvin Cook or look to Kareem Hunt as a short yardage/goal line back, but its options are largely limited to role players. I'm fine putting running back on the roster hole list. No complaints there. I think Ezekiel Elliott is, I would argue, actually kind of clearly better than Dalvin Cook and Kareem Hunt. I think both those guys are washed. I have no desire to add either of those players. Next up was wide receiver in terms of the Bleacher Report roster roles, which again, I get the argument, right? Do you trust Jalen Tolbert? Is Jalen Brooks really a name that Bleacher Report even knows who that is? Again, who could they add? Well, they write the free agent receiver market isn't strong, but Dallas take a flyer on Michael Thomas or Hunter Renfrow, both former Pro Bowlers. List of available receivers also includes Russell Gage, Marquise Goodwin, Richie James, and former Cowboys practice squad member Martavis Bryant. Look, they already cut Bryant. That's not a strong group. We're like, they could bring back the dude they didn't want already. Come on. That's not a strong group, and that's not a strong argument. But receiver as a whole, sure, I get that. The last one, and this is the one I want to spend the most time on because I was most surprised by it, was linebacker. Not any of the other defensive spots. Linebacker was the only other one they had. I have a lot of thoughts on this we'll get to here momentarily. Plus, I think some kind of wild claims from Bleacher Report on targets and the need in general. But every time the Cowboys defense forces a turnover, you know we bust out the turnover chain here on the Cowboys Report. You can get yours as well over at chatsports.com/chain. It is the Navy chain link, by the way. Link will be in the comments and the description of today's show. That's chatsports.com/CowboysChain. Linebacker, I think you can make an argument that maybe you're looking for one more guy, but they also didn't mention DeMarvion Overshown, which I don't get. It's that's the one guy I'd be mentioning as an intriguing young asset long term. They added Eric Kendricks, as a backup or as a veteran, excuse me. They have Damone Clark, they have Maurice Leafau, they've added Willie Harvey. I think you're looking for maybe one more guy, maybe one of those UDFAs or young guy emerge as that 6th linebacker if you want to carry 6 or 5 if Willie Harvey does not impress at all. They listed 4 different targets, 2 actual linebackers, Quan Alexander and Zach Cunningham. Now, the argument was, you don't have good coverage linebackers. Okay. As part of their solution, they said, well, what if you just sign safeties like Jayron Kearse or Jamal Adams? To which I say, what are we doing here? I don't want Jayron Kearse back with the Cowboys. It was a shocking, positive revelation in 2021. His play declined the last 2 years. He wasn't the same guy. I thought you had better safeties or safety/linebacker hybrids that you were playing or not playing over Jayron Kearse. And it was also Jamal Adams. What are we doing out here? Blitz Boy didn't blitz anymore. The injuries have mounted. It doesn't make sense. You're trying to add another safety linebacker hybrid. I thought we were trying to get away from that a little bit. You have players who can handle that role. I get all the Jamal Adams, big name stuff. He wasn't very good the past few years in Seattle. I don't think that should be ignored. So I've got more thoughts specifically on Jamal Adams and this linebacker hybrid safety thing. But do you want to sign Jamal Adams if you were the Cowboys? S for sign, P for pass. I don't really get the idea from Bleacher Report of adding Jamal Adams at all. I get there was once a lot of interest, and I thought it made sense, and then once it was 2 first-round picks, okay, you're definitely not going to do that there. Adams is not the same player he was. That in-the-box, blitzing, run-stopping playmaker, not the same guy. Injuries and ineffectiveness have emerged. If we're arguing that the Cowboys need to get a better coverage linebacker, a better hybrid player to help out at linebacker in a pinch, Adams doesn't help you much in coverage. And not only that, I don't need another safety linebacker hybrid. I have guys who can do that. I have a better one in Marquise Bell. You talk about coverage linebackers, you don't have that guy. He was literally one of the best coverage linebackers in football last season. How do we not know that, Bleacher Report? I'd rather play Wanye Thomas more. I can put Donovan Wilson down in the box. I don't need another one of those players, and I don't need Jamal Adams in Dallas. Now, Bleacher Report also wrote about the linebacker room. One way or another, though, the Cowboys need to strengthen the second level of their defense. Arguably, their only question mark on that side of the ball. So, before I rant again, is linebacker the biggest need for the Cowboys on defense? 1 for yes or 2 for no? It is a 2. Linebacker is not the biggest defensive need. How do we not put defensive tackle on that list? Have we looked at that room? It's not good. You are an injury to Osa Odigizua away from having the worst defensive tackle room in the NFL by a massive margin. And they might already kind of be there. I'm down to bank on Mozzie Smith, first-round pick, got to play him. I get it. You don't have the bodies right now. You need help there. So to not put defensive tackle on that list, I just think is straight ignorance.